Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Gavin. I'm your host tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Very glad you are. Today is a great day. It is a great day. For those of you who've been following my channel for a long time, you know that for 3 years, I have been reporting on the murder of Ellen Ray Greenberg. The thing that just irks me about this case is that to this day, the city of Philadelphia says it wasn't a murder. That her death was caused by her. And that pisses me off. Now, if you don't know much about this case at all, I think for the sake of all of us, we are going to just go over it briefly. Okay? So we're all on the same page. And then we are going to get into the news. We're going to get deeper into the news. The news is this: that Ellen's parents, Josh and Sandy Greenberg, who have been fighting for justice for their daughter, got terrific news today, got a lifeline when they were informed that the state Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has agreed to hear their appeal. Their lawsuit is now all the way up to the state Supreme Court, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it pretty deeply. So stick with me while we talk about this case, okay? And while we do, we're just going to bring pictures of Ellen up so that you can see her and get to know her. Also, if you ever want to get my attention in the live chat, just put GF in the live chat. Also, since we're doing housekeeping here, sorry guys, I'm all over the place. If you want to hear breaking news like this, follow me on Twitter, because I'm really plugged into this story, and it was 7 hours ago that I put this out there on Twitter that the news broke. The Supreme Court decided to hear the case. But if you're on Twitter, I invite you to follow me there. Okay. That's like a shameless self-promotion. Okay. Let's get back to Ellen. All right. This is the long and short of the case. Okay. January 26, 2011. Ellen Greenberg, who was a primary school teacher, an elementary school teacher here in the United States, it's called elementary school. There was a big storm coming in, kind of like this, I have a big storm outside, but it was bigger than that. It's called a nor'easter. Huge storm was coming in. She was sent home from school along with all of the children that she taught. When she got home, she checked in on the kids, started working on doing their grades. Okay, working on their homework assignments and that sort of stuff. Okay. She was living at the time with her fiance, a man named Sam Goldberg. Here's a picture of Ellen and Sam. Sam Goldberg's story is this: that he went down they lived on the 6th floor. He said he went down to the 1st floor of the apartment building to work out in the gym. Okay. All of this part of it is corroborated by video evidence, right? You can go to my website. You can see so much on my website, guys. Let me bring up the page. Yeah. So if you go over to my website, all of this is here, including all of the videos I've done on the case, photos of Ellen, crime scene photos, autopsy model photos, case documents, a timeline. There's just so much. Okay. So you can, including surveillance cameras. So feel free to head on over there. Okay. So Sam Goldberg says that he goes down to the 1st floor. He works out. When he leaves the gym, hops in the elevator, goes back up to the 6th floor, he says he found that the door was locked from the inside using a hotel bar style latch. Happen to have one. Where is it? My kids like to play with it. Oh, there it is. All right. Scooching up. I'm a professional, you can tell. This kind of latch. this kind of latch. You see that, okay? That on the inside, he comes up and he sees that the door is locked from the inside. This is what he says, okay? He, for the next hour-ish, proceeds to text her, to call her, to email her. He gets progressively more angry with her. And let me in, right? He says he goes down to the front desk of their apartment complex and asks for somebody to help him break in. They won't help him break in. So the story goes, he goes upstairs, he breaks down the door and finds Ellen on the floor of the apartment with a knife in her chest. Now, he claims he didn't see the knife at first. And if you guys haven't watched it yet, there is on my website, let me show you this one. Part 3 is the actual 911 call that he made. I'm not going to play it today, but you can play that over there. Okay. So he calls 911. He says that, oh my goodness, I found my fiance. She's not breathing. There's blood everywhere. And oh my goodness gracious me, there is a knife in her heart. Okay. The police come, they investigate, and they say to themselves, she clearly did this to herself. I have no idea how police would come to that conclusion with a knife sticking out of somebody's chest. I'm not going to use his word, heart. It's her chest. But they are like, she did this to herself, so we're not going to investigate. Ellen's body is then taken to the medical examiner's office, where the following morning, this man, a man named Marlon Osborne, MD, actually, I don't know if he's an MD or DO. Dr. Marlon Osborne, pathologist, does an autopsy. He was an assistant medical examiner at the Philadelphia County Medical Examiner's Office. And lo and behold, he discovers, no, there's not just a stabby stab in the chest and a couple pokey pokies in her abdomen. She has been stabbed 20 times, 10 of which are to the back of her head and neck. This is definitely a homicide, right? And he writes a report. That says that she died by homicide, and you can find that on my website right here. Okay. Then the story goes, after like a clandestine meeting. The clandestine is the word that Ellen Greenberg's parents' lawyers used, but there was like this secretive meeting where it was members of the Philly PD. It was somebody from the DA's office. It was representatives from the ME's office, including Dr. Osborne. They convince him to change the manner of death to reflect that Ellen did it to herself. I have no idea how he can medically come to that. Anyway, he does. Okay. And from that point on, the city of Philadelphia has said Ellen Greenberg did it to herself. Okay. There's so many other details in this, including having the case escalated from the Philadelphia DA's office, where I wish I would have got his picture ready for you guys, but an amazing attorney, a prosecutor in the DA's office, was like, I want to investigate this case, a guy named Guy DeAndrea. And anyway, after he left and there was a conflict of interest, it was escalated up to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General at the time was a man named Josh Shapiro. If you have never heard of Josh Shapiro and you live in the United States, just turn on the news. He is now the governor of the state of Pennsylvania, and he is in the running to be a vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris on the Democrat ticket. In fact, again, some shameless self-promotion. If you go over to my website, go either to the blog or go to the homepage, my latest post is an opinion piece that I wrote titled "Anti-Semites Shouldn't Stop Josh Shapiro from Getting the Veep Nod, but a Murder Cover-Up Should." I invite you to read that because there's a lot in the news about Josh Shapiro. I think that he is unfit. I'm not even showing you this. Here you go. Right here. Here it is. I think that because of the cover-up of the murder of Ellen Greenberg, he should not be in the running for any high office. Anyway, okay, so this is what has happened in the case of Ellen Greenberg. Now, Josh and Sandy, Ellen's parents, took this, that they filed a lawsuit against Dr. Osborne, against the medical examiner's office, against the city of Philadelphia. And everything was going honky-dory until the city of Philadelphia appealed in what I believe is called an interlocutory appeal, meaning, hey, we're not waiting for this lawsuit to finish. We want to be able to appeal to the appellate court because we don't think you guys have standing. You don't have standing to have this lawsuit in the first place. The appellate court accepted that appeal, and let me just read to you from that actual appeal document. I'm going to bring you over here to Adobe Acrobat. This is a 39-page opinion that I've gone over in depth here on the channel. I'm just going to read the first couple of paragraphs, okay? Because that's where the main thing is. Okay, Marlon Osborne, MD, in the City of Philadelphia Office of the Medical Examiner, appeal from the October 21st, 2021 order of the Court of Common Pleas of Philadelphia County denying their motion for summary judgment in this mandamus and declaratory action. Guys, mandamus is a check and balance, basically. Mandamus is a legal doctrine where the court can force a government agency into action if it finds its action or inaction to be egregious. I can't remember the exact legal terms, but basically it's like, hey, if a government office is acting capriciously and arbitrarily, those are the two words, then the court can force them to do that. So that's what Josh and Sandy were seeking, right? The MEO argues that Dr. Joshua M. and Mrs. Sandra Greenberg, parents of the late Ellen Ray Greenberg and administrators of her estate, lack standing to bring this action. Standing, in order to have standing in a court of law, in a civil court, you have to have been harmed in some way. Right? And the city of Philadelphia is going, they weren't harmed at all. Their daughter was harmed. And their daughter's estate wasn't harmed. Their daughter was harmed. So they have no standing, is basically the argument. Okay. Alternatively, the MEO argues that neither a writ of mandamus nor declaratory relief is available to compel a medical examiner to change his professional opinion stated in the death certificate. Now, and there was an amicus brief in this appeal from the National Association of Medical Examiners, something like that. I think it was named National Association of Medical Examiners, that argued to the court, hey, we are highly trained, highly educated people. Doctors and medical examiners go through so much continuing education that their opinions, which are just their opinions, they're not legally binding, should be beyond reproach. And that is what the city's arguing here. You can't compel a medical examiner to change his opinion. It's just an opinion. It's not legally binding or anything. Okay, while this court is acutely aware of the deeply flawed investigation of the victim's death by the City of Philadelphia Police Department detectives, the City of Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, and the Medical Examiner's Office, we have no choice under the law but to reverse and remand to the trial court for the entry of judgment in favor of the medical examiner's office. Even so, I'm going to read that one next. So they're basically like, I'm so very sorry. We recognize that they're all hosers. They hosed it all up. But we have no choice under the law but to side with them. We find that you don't have standing. That's what happened there. And it was a split decision. It was a 3-judge panel, and it was split 2-1. Okay? And then it continues, even so, in the interests of justice, we believe in providing a detailed review of the victim's death, and the ensuing investigation is clearly warranted in hopes that equity may one day prevail for the victim and her loved ones. Then for 30 some odd pages, they write a detailed description of all the ways the Philadelphia PD sucked and the district attorney's office sucked, and the medical examiner's office sucked. They detailed it out, and they were hoping, they say, that equity may one day prevail. Well, you know where the only place where equity will prevail in this case? That is in the state Supreme Court. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to go over to the actual docket. Okay? I printed this out about 10 o'clock this morning. I don't know when it was entered, but I was alerted to it by members of the family of Ellen Greenberg, members of the legal team, let's say. Okay, members of the team that is suing for justice for Ellen. Let's say it that way. All right. This is the case information, and basically there's an order granting. What happened is after, I'm not even showing you the right page. I'm having such a hard time today. Sorry, guys. What is happening? Was I not showing you the right page that whole time when I was reading? I hope not. It doesn't matter because I'm worked up. Guys, I'm worked up about this case. This case is really important to me. It's important to me for a couple different reasons. Number one, just specific to Josh and Sandy Greenberg, they have been denied justice for their daughter for over 13 years. And that pisses me off. It should piss you off too. But secondly, I know of at least two other families, one in the state of New York, one in the state of Minnesota, that are in such a similar circumstance as the Greenbergs, where the medical examiner's office is just beyond checks and balances. They're just beyond it. And if I know of a total of 3 in 3 states, I'm telling you there are thousands and thousands that are in this boat. And we need somebody, anybody, to be able to break through that barrier that is put there by basically a medical examiner's office, right? There has to be some oversight of the medical examiner's office. And as of right now, there is none. There is no way that you can challenge a medical examiner's opinion right now. Okay. So, all right, here's the docket that I printed off earlier today. Came out today. It's an order granting petition for the allowance of an appeal. Okay, and I got sidebarred. So what happened is after Josh and Sandy lost the case, their attorneys, Joe Pedraza and Will Trask from Land McErland, I think is how you pronounce the name of that legal firm. These guys are terrific attorneys. They decided, along with Josh and Sandy, that they were going to appeal to the state Supreme Court. The likelihood of the state Supreme Court granting their appeal is so minuscule, and we're going to get into why that is here in just a second. But, okay, let's get back over here. All right, so here is the order granting motion for appeal, and we can just kind of skip down through here. But basically, what we learn in this is here is the question that the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania is going to answer. This is the part of the law that their job is to clarify. Just so you guys know, this is not a federal case. This is the end of the road. Right here, the state Supreme Court. It cannot go to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay? As far as I understand. I'm not a lawyer, but okay. So July 30th, 2024, today, on this docket number, the grant order says, and now this 30th day of July 2024, the petition for allowance of appeal is granted. The issue as stated by petitioners, which is Mr. Pedraza and Trask, right? The issue as stated by petitioners is whether, as an issue of statewide importance, executors and administrators of an estate have standing to challenge an erroneous finding recorded on the decedent's death certificate where that finding constitutes a bar or material impediment, right? Like a dam. They're damned from moving forward. A bar or material impediment to recovery of victims' compensation, restitution, or for wrongful death, as well as private criminal complaints. That is the question that the Supreme Court wants to address. And it is huge, guys. It is huge that they got this far. Now, from the way I'm reading it, it looks like their briefs need to be filed by the appellants, which are Josh and Sandy Greenberg through their attorneys, and the appellees, who are the medical examiner's office for the city of Philadelphia and Dr. Marlon Osborne. So September 9th is when those briefs are due. I believe those briefs are public record. So I will put that in my, I'm going to put that in my calendar so that I remember to read those documents, and I'm going to bring those to you guys here. Now, I told you I was going to talk a little bit about the very minuscule odds that you could get the Supreme Court to hear your case. This is an article that was published today. I think it was this afternoon. I closed my tab on the website before I converted it to this text. But anyway, this is from Philadelphia, CBS Philadelphia. And it says, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court will hear arguments from the family of Ellen Greenberg, a Philadelphia educator who died in 2011. Let's remember, this is Ellen. She was engaged and about to be married. This is her trying on wedding dresses. Let's see, who died in 2011 in a case her family argues was not that she did it to herself as officially ruled. Greenberg, a beloved teacher at Juniata Park Academy, was found dead in her Manayunk apartment, Manayunk neighborhood of Philadelphia, in 2011 with more than 20 stab wounds. I forgot to show you guys that. These are the stab wounds that Ellen Greenberg received. She endured them to her death. Right? Can you imagine doing that to yourself? I cannot. In fact, I even did a video on that, if I remember correctly. Let me go back to Ellen's case. I did a video on that you guys can watch. If we go to my case page, go to Ellen's page. It's one of the first ones I did. It features my lovely wife trying to see if she can do that to the back of her own head. Spoiler alert, she was unable to do that. Right? Okay. Back to the story. Let's see. She was just 27 years old. Greenberg's parents have fought for years to undo the official paperwork ruling on Ellen's death. Lawyers for her parents have alleged the investigation was mishandled. Yeah, and you know what? I think that we can remove allegation. It's not alleged. The Commonwealth Court of the state of Pennsylvania said, yeah, all these people suck at their jobs, right? Okay, quote, "We don't believe our daughter committed S," Ellen's father, Josh Greenberg, told Joe Holden last year. Now a lengthy court battle will continue to the next round, Pennsylvania's highest court. Here's a quote from Joe that I wanted to share. "The Pennsylvania Supreme Court only takes cases which it decides are significant enough from a social standpoint for it to consider," attorney Joe Pedraza said Tuesday in an interview with WHP-TV, a CBS affiliated station in Harrisburg. The case was pending for about 6 or 7 months before the attorneys were notified. Yeah, they filed this. I think they said they filed it. I can't remember. Well, let's see. This was September is when this ruling came out. And I think they had a couple of months to file. So yeah, we're 7 or 8 months into this. Justices will hear arguments on this question Pedraza posed, whether coroners and medical examiners have absolute power, or can they be challenged when the evidence shows they are not only mistaken, but grossly mistaken. And then, there's a bunch of details here. Here's another one from Joe. Compensation as a victim of crime. You are compensated if it's a homicide rather than an S. For every citizen in this Commonwealth, this case could potentially have a bearing at some point in their life or the lives of their family members. That's how important it is. And I've already told you guys, It's more, I think Joe is understating it. And all respect to Joe, he's a lawyer and he's doing the right thing, but I'm a YouTuber and I tend to overstate things, right? No, this this has, I mean, I can't even state the importance that this has. You guys, are you familiar with the case of Amanda Winkowski? If you're not, go to my website and look her up. It's one of the first cases I ever did. This case, the case of Amanda Winkowski, stalled in an appellate court, not because of standing, but because of a statute of limitations. So the medical examiner cannot be challenged. Man, my website is having a hard time right now. The medical examiner can't be challenged because the statute of limitations was expired. Do you know how long that statute of limitations was? 4 months. That's one. Another one that you guys should look up if you have not seen it yet is the case of David Elmquist. This is one where the medical examiner says that he also took his own life by pouring crude oil on him and lighting himself aflame, kind of the way protesters do, right? But the evidence shows that there were 2 fires. The evidence to me shows that somebody else lit him aflame. So this is such an important case. I can't even tell you guys how important this is and what happiness this is. I only hope deeply, and I'm going to get to your comments here in just a second. I only hope that, I want the Pennsylvania Supreme Court obviously to follow the law, but I think the law is on the side of Josh and Sandy. They are hurt. They are damaged because they don't have access to the Victims' Compensation Fund. They don't have access to file a civil wrongful death suit. All the things that Joe said, they are injured. And therefore, I believe that they do have standing. My hope is that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court agrees with my assessment on this and with the assessment of Joe and Will. I think they will. One other interesting thing that I should point out on the docket sheet here, bring you back to it. Let me see. Is that where did I see that? It might have been the first page. Give me a second. Yes. Justice Wecht did not participate in the consideration or decision of this matter. Justice Wecht is Mr. Justice David Wecht. He sits on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and he is the son of famed pathologist Dr. Cyril Wecht, who passed away, I think, in May, who actually was hired by the Greenbergs to look at this case, and he came to the consideration that, yeah, this smells of a homicide and nothing else. So that I thought was pretty important. So let's go ahead and we're gonna bring a photo up of Ellen, and let's go on to your comments. Melissa says, Gavin, great piece on Shapiro earlier this week. Thank you very much. I'm deeply concerned with the conflict of interest that Josh Shapiro had in this case. It was a viewer of mine who even let any of us know that from the very beginning. It never would have been known without one of you guys that Josh Shapiro has close family or a close friendly relationship with members of Sam Goldberg's family. Remember, Sam Goldberg is the fiance of Ellen Greenberg. And to me, had Ellen's death been investigated as a homicide like it should have from the very beginning, he would have been suspect number 1, right? El numero uno. They would have looked right at him. Well, he has an uncle and cousin who have been described to me as like his cousin was like his best friend, right? And his uncle, James Schwartzman, who is a judge himself and an attorney himself. In fact, both of these men are attorneys. Well, anyway, Judge Schwartzman, his daughter, which is also Sam Goldberg's first cousin, went to school with Josh Shapiro. They're buddies. And Josh Shapiro even said on Twitter, called her a friend, and they posed in pictures together and stuff like that. So like there are so many, so there is a conflict of interest, and that case stayed in the Attorney General's office for over 4 years before that conflict of interest was found by one of you guys, and he was forced to kick the case. So thank you very much for that comment, Melissa. I appreciate it. Let's see. Kelly says, Gavin, thank you for your tireless commitment to Ellen, her family, and the case. I don't know if I would call it tireless, but I am invested in this case, Kelly. Thank you for that comment. This case, I mean, I think I've made my emotions and my thoughts clear on this. This case has deep importance, not just for Ellen Greenberg, not just for Josh and Sandy Greenberg, but for the nation. And I know it's only a state case, it's not a federal case, but I think that once somebody in some state can break through that barrier that MEs have, that barrier will fall in other states. There will be a domino effect. So I hope so. Let's see. If we go to RR says, Gavin, were there defensive wounds on Ellen's arms or hands? RR, this is a terrific question, and I am happy to answer it. I also just want to let you know, though, there is a video that I have done where I went over this in great detail. Let me find it for you. Real quick, and then I definitely will answer the question here. I'm not just going to make you go find it, but I think I've got it. Yes. Okay, so on my website, go to gavinfish.com. There's a link below. Go to the case page, go to Ellen's case, and then look for this video. It's number 11. It says, do not watch this. The reason I put do not watch this is because with Ellen Greenberg's parents' permission, I showed some of the autopsy photos. And okay, so watch that if you haven't already and you want to, please watch this. If it's going to trigger you, don't go and watch it, okay? But the short answer to this is that there weren't like knife wounds. There weren't like cuts and stabs and stuff like that on her hands. There were abrasions, contusions, bruises on her hands. Okay? The other thing that you need to know is that there were, Dr. Osborne in his report said that there were, I think he counted them, there were like 10 or 12 other bruises on her body in varying stages of resolution, meaning various stages of healing. Some were older than others, right? But I'm telling you, as a person who has seen the autopsy photos, because Josh and Sandy has allowed that to happen through their attorney, I have those in my possession. There are way more bruises, including bruises on her hands. There are bruises on her neck as if she has been throttled. There is evidence that Ellen was being physically abused before she died. My suspect, if I were to investigate this as a police officer, again, would be the significant other. That's what I would do, right? So anyway, no like major cuts, but defensive wounds for sure. Thank you very much for that question. Let's see. Does Shapiro have interaction with the SSC? If so, how? Okay, Melissa, you're going to have to forgive me on this, and please just follow it up with a comment on this. I'm not sure what you mean by the SSC. Does Shapiro have interaction with the SSC? Man, I'm just feeling thick right now. I should know what you mean. but the state Supreme Court. That's what you're saying. The state Supreme Court. Okay. Well, I think, first I would say this. I don't know. I don't know. However, like right now, he is the chief executive of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? So he is in a branch of government that should be equal to, well, it shouldn't necessarily be equal to. He's in one of the three branches of government of the state. Okay. The whole co-equal branches, that is a Richard Nixon invention. They're not co-equal. The Supreme Court has way more power than the executive branch, but I digress. So he is the chief executive of the executive branch of the state. Supreme Court obviously is the highest power in the judiciary. There would be little official interaction between those two branches of government. However, having said that, Mr. Shapiro was once the chief of, he was what is referred to as the chief law enforcement officer. It's not really, it's the chief prosecutor of the state, right? So he was a member of the judicial branch. So he would have had interactions with members of the Supreme Court. Now, having said that, let me just tell you of an experience that I once had at a lower court, okay? Court of Common Pleas. The way Pennsylvania does it is there are basically two legs to the judicial system. Not really. It goes from the district judges to the Court of Common Pleas. From there, it bifurcates into criminal and civil appellate courts. One is the Commonwealth, one is the Superior Court, and then it goes up to the Supreme Court. So at the Court of Common Pleas in a county here in Pennsylvania, not the one that I live in, I once was in the back room, kind of where judges' chambers are, and where like the court administrator's office is, and it seemed to be the place kind of around the water cooler that everybody came and hung out. Okay. While I was in there, there were staffers, there was a defense attorney back there. In and out came a couple of prosecutors, and in and out came the president judge of that county. And while we were in there, we were just chit-chatting away like any other like office setting, any other setting where one would have coworkers. All right. The defense attorneys are chit-chatting with the judge as if they go golfing with them all the time and they know their spouses and that sort of stuff. And the prosecutors were doing the same thing. The administrators were doing the same thing. So getting back to your question, Melissa G., does he have interaction with the state Supreme Court? I don't know. But I believe because of where he came up through the ranks, he probably knows all of them. He probably has gone to so many conferences with them. He's gone to presentations with them. They've, when a judge retires, there is usually some big to-do, a big party, some shindig that they all get together at. Yes, the answer is yes, I believe they know each other. Now, I have faith, though, that I don't think that he has power over them. I really don't. Like these people are at the top of their, proverbial food chain. They have achieved the top. So I don't think they can be swayed by him, if that's kind of what you're getting at. I don't know. Kitty Beans asked, Gavin, do you think this will hopefully come up in the vetting of Shapiro as a potential VP candidate? Well, Kitty Beans, that is the reason that I wrote that blog piece over on my website. I wrote this blog piece because what is happening with Josh Shapiro is unfairly, he's basically, I don't know. He has a barrier to being considered for the vice presidential spot because he's Jewish, which is stupid. right? In fact, I quoted a couple things. Shapiro would be an excellent vice presidential candidate, said New York Times opinion columnist Pamela Paul in a pre-anointing of Kamala Harris piece last week. But given the unfortunate but real anti-Semitism on the left right now, as well as on the right, this may not be the right time for a Jewish Democratic presidential candidate. And I wrote, while Muslim anti-Semite Michiganders, which was written in the Inquirer, Philadelphia Inquirer, may block Shapiro's path to the vice presidency this time around and to the Oval eventually, his heritage isn't a problem for non-bigots, but he does have a problem that I hope will keep him from higher office. The problem for me, and hopefully for you, is that he took part in the cover-up of the murder of a Philadelphia school teacher, seemingly at the behest of one of his friends. So I invite you, it's actually a pretty long read, but I invite you to head on over there and read that piece. To answer your question, Kitty Beans, I hope that Josh Shapiro will not be considered as a vice presidential candidate because of his office's involvement with the cover-up of the murder of Ellen Greenberg. RR then says, thank you for the information, Gavin. That looks like it's everything that you guys have directed at me. One other thing we have from ICU, we have a super chat. Thank you very much, ICU. $50 super chat. Gavin, name National Association of Medical Examiners position statement says MEs should be free of pressures from political or legal pressures by individuals or offices. I assume this applies to law enforcement officers. Or offices. Yes, that is the amicus brief that they filed, and I could bring it up for you. I mean, I thought that it would be hilarious if it wasn't so dangerous. No, you should not be free from oversight. Maybe free from political pressures, but from oversight altogether, no. I'm gonna just bring this up. In my documents file, appellate court, and then there was this amicus brief. Yeah. So here's the amicus brief for you guys to see. Basically, and I didn't prepare to do this, but to go over this in general or in detail. But there is a position statement, I think. The foundation critical independence that must be maintained by coroners, medical examiners, and forensic pathologists in making cause and manner of death determinations in medical legal death investigations simply cannot be overstated. And it goes, such pressure comes not only from surviving family members and closely related aggrieved stakeholders, but also comes from political officials, prosecutors, and mainstream and social media and special interest groups who seek to influence the pathologist's findings for reasons other than scientific or medical validity and accuracy. Okay, so getting back over to you, ICU. I can agree with the National Association of Medical Examiners that MEs should be free from pressures from aggrieved families and so on and so forth. However, I do not think that they should have like absolute freedom from pressure from a court of law. I should be able to say, no, you act, and every other government agency is subject to a court ordering them to do something, except medical examiners' offices, it seems, right? So they should be free from pressure from people like Josh and Sandy Greenberg, but they should not be free from pressure from a court of law who says, no. You have acted capriciously. You have acted arbitrarily. Therefore, we order you to do something about it. And that's the problem that I have with this piece of absolute tripe that was filed by the National Association of Medical Examiners. Thank you very, very much for that. Let's move to another picture of Ellen while we go through a couple of other comments just to I just want to make sure that I get everybody who wants to talk. Melissa then says, Gavin, what can we do other than social media to get Shapiro's involvement known? He should never have been a consideration. Yeah, listen, I try to remain politically neutral on just politics in general. Of course, I have my political views. And I just in this channel, I want to remain politically neutral. But in this case, I had to speak out because it's not about politics. It's about ethics. It's about ethics. I really don't think that Josh Shapiro should be our governor. I do not believe he should have been our attorney general. I want his political career to end where it is now. It's not that I like or dislike him or Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or anybody else involved in any of this. It's that I think that he broke ethical constraints by holding that case in his office for 4.5 years. What can we do? I think social media is where it's at, and I think that people need to know about this. When I wrote that piece on my website, I didn't expect it to get anywhere because who am I? I'm just a little YouTuber in a corner of Western Pennsylvania, right? I'm unimportant in the grand scheme of things. But to try to get it out there, I reached out to every single media outlet in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, without exception, every single one. Not one of them picked it up. Not one of them. I then reached out to conservative media, to liberal media, to mainstream media, probably another 20 outlets. Nobody cares. And this is a guy that could be a heartbeat away from being president of the United States. And he so clearly, in my opinion, broke those ethical, constraints on Ellen's case. Gee, if the couple lived in an apartment high-rise, were there video cameras at the end of the hallway? Not on the 6th floor. There were video cameras on the 1st floor, so we did see Sam Goldberg getting off the elevator, getting on the elevator. We saw him going into the gym. We saw police arrive. We saw first responders, firefighters, EMTs. We saw all sorts of stuff on the 1st floor, but we did not see anything on the 6th floor. Thank you very much for that question. Black Widower says, "You are our big fish, Gavin." Well, thank you. I'm actually getting littler. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm such an old fat guy right now. But thank you very much for that, Black Widower. Speaking of fishies, by the way, guys, head on over to the fish tank over on Facebook. You can just search the fish tank and you can find the fish tank. Or if you're on my website up at the top, you can click on that little fishy right there. It'll take you there. There are about 1,900 of us, and we like to talk about true crime. So if you want to join us on Facebook, talk about cases like Ellen's case, like Madeline Soto's case, like Micah Miller, like Jocelyn Nungarai, like so many others, please join us over there on the fish tank. And thank you very much for that comment, Black Widower. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys. I know that there are other comments there, but none of them are directed directly at me. So, but Mooney. You know what Mooney just did, guys? Do you guys know who Mooney is? Mooney is probably my biggest supporter. She is awesome. She takes care of me. She takes care of so many of you by gifting memberships. I don't know how many she's gifted so far since I've opened up memberships, but Mooney does this, and I'm grateful, Mooney, for you for doing that. That is awesome. Thank you very much. If you want to be a little like Mooney, you can go over to my website. You can see how you can support the work that I do. You can see how you can support my moderators who, if you guys have been chatting, in the live chat, my moderators, Autumn and Jamie, who've been working hard, you can come down here. You can actually buy them a cup of coffee. I would love it if you would do that. And some of you do it from time to time. It's pretty awesome. So please take care of my moderators if you can. All right, guys, with that, this is great news. This is really good news for Josh and Sandy. I think I just so hope that the Supreme Court will agree with my layperson, non-lawyer's assessment of this, that there has to be oversight of medical examiners' offices. And so far there is none. So for those of you who believe in positive vibes, send those vibes to Josh and Sandy. Those of you who believe in God, send your prayers their way. Support them by signing. If you go to Ellen's case page again, let me get over there real quick. Support them by signing the petition on change.org that 161,000 people have signed. Please donate to their GoFundMe campaign. They've raised about almost $58,000, but they have spent, according to Josh, over $500,000 already on this. So please, please, please go and help Josh and Sandy with that, guys. Remembering Ellen Greenberg and wanting justice for her, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.